Good evening, everyone, and welcome to my show. I'm the Dawnbreaker, and tonight I have prepared a story by Nessieinternational that is about a flight on Singapore Airlines. So, when you think about it, what's the worst thing that you can imagine happening during a flight? Is it an engine failure? Or maybe ghosts or snakes, even? Well, Nessie had something else in mind completely, and we're gonna find out about it together. So, let's go! Keep your boy quiet, I whispered to the Caucasian American woman. Don't let his breakdown continue. The passenger nodded, and her arms wrapped tighter around her severely autistic 13-year-old son's mouth and belly, clinging desperately to him for dear life. The child squirmed and turned, but was no match for his mother's strength. Darling, please, we have only 55 minutes left, I heard her whispering into her son's ear. As I watched her, beads of sweat rolled down my neck, ruining my makeup a little and staining my red sarong kebaya, the uniform marking my proud promotion to Chief Stewardess on Singapore Airlines just a few weeks ago. I looked at the dark grayish-black curtains a few rows in front of her that were separating economy class on the SQ-27 Airbus A350-900. The noises from premium economy and business class had stopped. Only occasional light shuffling remained. Relieved, I sat on the light beige nylon carpeted aisle floor in the cool air-conditioned cabin among small carry-on luggage, stabilizing my breathing and steadying myself as my fingers shook, gripping my wedding ring to calm myself. The cheerful face of Chase on the nearby Paw Patrol backpack on the ground did nothing as I tried to calm myself. Nothing but a very soft, gentle humming of the plane's engines filled the air. Helping the mother control him was harder than the time my son threw a tantrum at Toys R Us in Tampines Mall. Never in my all years here had I ever manhandled a passenger. Yes, I knew it wasn't the boy's fault, but what other choice was there? No, 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 Anastasia, he had to stop, I told myself. Walao, stop thinking. Not like I did it because my heart was full of resentment toward people with special needs. There was no room for negotiating, I reminded myself, keeping premium economy and business class in mind. And everyone else too, especially my 5-year-old son Ethan, my little Baobei. Definitely waiting for me in his bedroom at my 5-room HDB flat in Tampines, probably as stubborn as me, always staying up till he hears my house keys, since it's the 2026 June holidays now. Then again, a realization that the boy was not in full control would move to eclipse that. When my shoulders loosened, I slowly straightened my legs up before making my way down the aisle to the galley at the rear of the plane, picking up the Paw Patrol backpack while stepping over leather briefcases and small carry-on bags on the aisle. My black eyes glanced around at the rows of occupied light blue and gray seats illuminated by the overhead LED lights as I passed by. Checking on the 187 passengers now back in their seats, consisting of students, families, businessmen, and other travelers from all across the globe, forming something like a mini United Nations in economy class. Singaporeans from the city-state main 4 ethnic groups, Caucasian Americans, a Latino American family with a grandmother staring at the endless night sky through the window, a group of African American students from the University of Washington, seemingly in a silent discussion. One was folding an air sickness bag into a square, again and again. A South Korean monk sitting motionlessly, with his hands calmly gripping a string of Xiaomu prayer beads. A sweaty Chinese American in a gold UC Berkeley hoodie, eyes locked in the direction of the autistic boy, with his right arm wrapped around the shoulders of his worried, half-paralyzed Chinese American bespectacled bestie. Then, an Australian couple relieved that their baby son wearing earmuffs was still sleeping. My hands silently reminded them to keep their baby quiet. An Israeli Jewish man holding hands with his teen son wearing eye-catching black t-shirt displaying the silhouette of mountains and pine trees against a bright orange circle, printed with the words, Galloway Forest Park. A plump, bespectacled elderly Scottish woman wearing black rain boots trying to distract her worried husband wearing a brown hat by showing him photos of their dog named Courage on her iPad. Only for him to grumpily mutter, "Blah blah blah, Muriel. I want my money, not that stupid dog." A heavily tattooed British man with a bright purple ponytail, nose ring, and other multiple body piercings reading from a pocket Bible while doing the signs of the cross. A French boy in his late teens who had asked me before takeoff to help him snap a photo of him and his boyfriend, picking up a handbag of two small scattered laptop bags from the aisle to clear the way for me, before returning to his seat to comfort his huddled partner by massaging his shoulders. A Singaporean Sikh man sitting right next to the British passenger, with fingers clasped nervously while looking at his 15-year-old air-sick son sitting across the aisle being comforted by his mother. Before takeoff, he had asked to exchange seats with his son, telling me sternly he didn't want his son to be influenced by that Ang Moh. An unaccompanied 8-year-old puppy-eyed Canadian boy with closed eyes and hands clasped in silent prayer. A Thai businessman listening to Mozart 2025 classical music on Chris World through the supplied headphones connected to the in-flight entertainment LCD screen while squeezing a black stress ball tightly. A middle-aged Filipino couple and their son a few seats from the galley, receiving extra packets of almonds from an air stewardess, with the mother calming her boy, clutching a white pillow and staring into blank space by reminding him of the events in Cebu. Different backgrounds, different languages, different ages, but all were desperately looking forward to one thing: landing in Changi International Airport. Many passengers kept stealing glances at the curtains as they silently waited. Some typed away on their phones, snapped photos, closed empty overhead compartments, or filmed videos for their families, TikTok or Instagram. A few followed the Thai businessman's example by watching movies or listening to music using the in-flight entertainment. The Canadian's boy's prayer was interrupted when my hand tapped over his shoulder. A light smile was returned as I handed him his Paw Patrol backpack, which I recognized when I helped store it on the overhead compartment. The monk had passed it to me before placing the bag on the ground and returning to his seat when I told him it was not needed anymore. At the child's request, I engaged in short prayer with him before moving on, reminding me of Ethan. Behind him, a Singaporean Malay Muslim mother shook her head when her 5-year-old daughter asked to use the lavatory. "No, Sayang, not now," she whispered, pulling the girl closer. The child opened her mouth to protest, but the look on her mother's face silenced her. As I continued on, I spun around when I felt a tap on my shoulder. Greeting me were the African-American students who had left their seats positioned near the autistic boy, informing me of their quiet discussion from earlier, explaining they had unanimously wished to sit on the ground further down the aisle, as far away as permitted. Noticing them, a pair of Singaporean Chinese newlyweds, the French teens, 2 elderly Caucasian Americans, and a Singaporean Chinese family of 3 got up and followed suit. Triggering a Singaporean Eurasian frequent flyer in his late 20s, the Australian couple with their baby, a Singaporean Indian lady in a red sari, the Latino family, the Israeli father and son, and the Caucasian American woman wearing a black hoodie printed with the words "The Dawnbreaker" to join in the silent retreat. A quiet thank you from the Singaporean Sikh was given to the British passenger who silently helped his nauseous son out of his seats. Even the composed monk didn't hesitate to leave. Nobody stopped them. What would be the point? I would have done the same if I weren't wearing my uniform. As I stood aside to let them pass, my eyes noticed the teen in the gold hoodie standing up and waving to me, spurring me to walk over. A moment later, I was walking backwards with my arms holding up the half-paralyzed bespectacled boy's legs, carrying him down the aisle while his bestie's hands were gripping his torso. The UC Berkeley student had wanted to join the passengers leaving their seats, but couldn't bear the thought of leaving his brother from another mother behind, mirroring how I raised my little Ethan, always about looking after his friends. Hopefully, he will be like the UC Berkeley student when he reaches his age. After lowering the teen down on the seats which the Filipino mother had willingly offered alongside her bag of almonds, as his bestie opened the snack for him and checked his breathing, I continued onto the galley. My mind drifted back to hours ago on how by the book and eager to put the passengers' needs I was. Before our 16-hour and 40-minute flight took off from Seattle, we were informed about the boy's condition, about the possibility of having to endure a potential 2-hour breakdown. I had briefed my crew upon receiving that bit of information, reminding them they were carrying an SEA's reputation of being the second in the world by Skytrax, and mine as well, as I wore the uniform, marking my leadership full of pride. Most of those no longer mattered now, not with the 40 minutes now left till landing in Singapore. After chatting and confirming with the pilots via the interphone that we were cleared for landing, a short briefing with the crew members was held, ordering them to clear the aisle of any luggage, close overhead compartments that were still open, and to get the passengers ready. A few were assigned to deal with the Australian baby and very young children in case any crying arises. Keeping the children in economy class in mind, I ordered the stewardess to pass me the small cardboard box containing hand-sized SEA Beery 3.0 teddy bears dressed in bright orange sun hats and yellow batik motifs from an overhead compartment. My mind could never stop thinking of my 5-year-old son waiting for his mother. If he and I had swapped places, I would have wanted someone to do the same for him. As she laid the box on the counter, I took a moment to pour myself a cup of sweet, refreshing orange juice, soothing the dryness of my mouth and giving space for my nerves to relax. Per procedure, those teddy bears were reserved strictly for children in business class, extras in case the supply for any reason runs low. But again, that didn't matter anymore, at least to me. The silent, cheerful, thankful smiles of the couple of Singaporean Chinese identical twin girls, a 3-year-old Caucasian American boy, the Singaporean Malay girl, the Latino family's sons, and the unaccompanied Canadian boy upon receiving the little bears kept my spirits up. Still, I wanted nothing more than to be with my family. As the cardboard box was down to the last few bears as I approached the mother still holding her autistic son, I paused to glance at an abandoned window seat. Bright lights from oil tankers and cargo ships waiting on an endless black ocean. My eyes shifted to Chris World, showing the live air route on the in-flight entertainment LCD screen. Slight relief washed over me. We were approaching the Singapore Strait. Just 5 more minutes and the airport's iconic Changi control tower will be greeting us. Then back home. My mind drifted to how happy I will be. My mind drifted to how happy I will be to hold my son in my arms again and to touch the face of Christopher, my husband, who I met at Temasek Polytechnic. He had promised to binge-watch Spider Noir on Prime Video with me after I returned home, which wasn't surprising since we were fans of Nicolas Cage ever since his colleagues at the Goody Feed introduced us to National Treasure. All of a sudden, I jumped as a loud scream of pain tore through the cabin. The box of bears dropped from my hand, which landed with a dull thud onto the ground. A couple of bears spilled out onto the aisle. My eyes turned towards the source. They caught the sight I dreaded. The autistic boy had broken free from his mother's grip, bawling and shrieking at the top of his lungs, blanketing and relaxing humming of the engines. For a heartbeat, I froze, not wishing to harm a child, harm I wouldn't want to happen to Ethan. But my mind broke through, urgent and screaming, "You Xiao!" Desperation kicked in as I lunged towards him. Without delay, I grabbed and shoved the boy to the ground, not caring about anything. Summoning all my strength, my hands pushed, forcing his jaw shut. A steward and the other stewardesses, alongside many passengers, joined in, desperate to silence him. Jumping up from his spot on the ground, the UC Berkeley student pulled off his hoodie, dashing over before wrapping it around the boy's mouth. The Thai businessman, the sick man, the purple-haired man followed suit as they ran over, removing their jacket, t-shirt and tank top. The Israeli Jewish teen and Singaporean Malay Muslim mother joined in at the sight, contributing their shirt and tudung, inspiring few more to help. The noises from premium economy and business class faded the moment his cries did. Within less than a minute, we managed to bind and gag the boy. The only thing he could do was wriggle like a cobra in a glass box, unable to fight against all of the excessive strong knots. The Singaporean Indian passenger tore her bright red silk sari to make an extra gag, not wanting to take any chances. As she did so, the UC Berkeley student kneeled as he did some sort of inspection, telling us afterwards the child was hyperventilating but will be fine. His mother could only watch apologetically as she applied first aid to the wounds on her arm, later helped by an air steward and a UC Berkeley student who introduced himself as a pre-med student named Andrew. The purple-haired man and the monk stood in the aisle for a while, each reciting prayers as they gripped their Bible and prayer beads. My language bank couldn't translate what the monk was saying, but the one holding the Bible was praying for the safety of everyone. I collapsed again on the floor, looking at my hands and wedding ring as they shook. Did I really do that? Anyone in the world, much less Singapore, would have been crucified for it, especially with the gentle hospitality and pleasant reputation attached to SEA Singapore girl. The unaccompanied Canadian boy stared at me in shock but lightly nodded. The Latino-American father looked at me with widened eyes while shaking his head, but didn't say anything. Regardless, the sight of the boy's horrified expression as I forced his mouth to close, it will stay with me forever. If my son or husband ever hears of what I had done, well, they will understand. At least I hope they will. To do the right thing, I had to be a monster. I just wish they won't judge me with disgust or be fearful of me. Or maybe what I did to the boy still wasn't really right. You crazy it is? Stop thinking, I mentally chanted, forcing myself back up before ordering an air stewardess to update the pilots. I turned my head towards the direction of the Australian couple. Their baby's eyes were open, but both parents had their hands covering its mouth. The Thai businessman, noticing me, approached to offer his stress ball, commenting that I was under quite a bit of stress, a gift I gratefully accepted. Before long, the comforting light bumps from the airplane's wheels landing on the runway could be felt. When the plane slowed to a stop, auxiliary police SUVs, SCDF ambulances, white medical response force trucks from the Singapore Armed Forces, Singapore Police Force fast response cars, Changi Airport Group airport emergency service vehicles, and menacing bright red Singapore Special Operation Command tactical strike vehicles flooded the runway. Their blinding bright red and blue sirens pierced the air, mixing with the lights of the runway. Two red emergency Air Star trucks immediately got to work moving into position. As we waited, the Scottish woman took an opportunity to ask me for a roll of tape. Her eyes briefly shifted to her husband looking out the window. The lit-up Changi Airport control tower and the famous dome of Jewel stood watching the airplane from a distance against the dark cloudy Singaporean night skies, seemingly looking with unease at our arrival. After gas-masked officers from the SOC did a quick checkup on all the passengers, I stood near the curtains with an officer, squeezing the stress ball and watching with admiration as everyone quietly left the aircraft in the brisk orderly fashion, heading towards the two exits at the galley. The Scottish woman's husband instinctively tried to open the overhead compartment while arguing with the crew and SOC officers who ordered him to leave his money and luggage, only stopping after Muriel quickly bonked him on the head with her iPad. A minute after, angrily asking her, "What did I do?" He was dragged out with the tape over his mouth by his wife furiously muttering, "Come on, you Stacy," while pulling him along by the ear. The bound and gagged boy was the first to leave, being carried away on a small stretcher by AES firefighters who refused to untie him till he was out of the plane. The half-paralyzed teen was informed at the same time he would be evacuated last as per procedure. The autistic boy's mother, before she left, gave an encouraging pat on my shoulder and whispered, "What you did was necessary." I wasn't fully convinced, but that small remark was enough. Guess I should stop feeling completely bad, I told myself as the last passenger got up. Ethan wouldn't want to know me like that, or at least notice something was bothering his mom. My eyes watched from the distance as Andrew stood by his friend's side and left only after all passengers had departed. He had a second's worth of hesitation, but immediately agreed to quit urging from his friend, the AES and the SOC. I raised my thumb up to reassure him from afar, which he seemed to acknowledge with a light nod. Admiration came back as all the stewards and stewardesses banded together to help AES firefighters and SOC officers lift the half-paralyzed bespectacled Chinese-American passenger out of the seat and strap him to a blue canvas rescue litter, cutting the time it would take to move him into the humid Singapore night. Once the cabin was empty, the SOC officer and I instinctively seized our chances. Our feet sprinted down the aisle towards the galley, the soles of his tactical boots and my sarong kebaya sandals making frantic muffled slaps against the nylon carpet. The cool air-conditioned air rushed into my face, which had sweat pouring down. My hands accidentally dropped the stress ball, but I paid no attention. My mind remained locked on a single name: Ethan. A Special Operations Command officer stood with his HK-416 assault rifle at each exit, beckoning us to hurry. Their facial features were obscured by their gas masks, but I could sense their hidden desperation. As I reached mid-row, my ears picked up a sound that pushed my adrenaline to its absolute limit. Thud. Then another. Thud. And another. Thud. A loud crash immediately followed. The noise from premium economy and business class rapidly grew aggressive. When my sandals made contact with the air stairs platform, I looked back from the doorway at the curtains for the last time before shutting the door. Multiple figures were quickly emerging. The wall of luggage keeping the zombies away had finally topped over. Huh? I bet you haven't seen that one coming, right? Thank you all for tuning in and checking the show. I'm the Dawnbreaker and I'm signing off until next time. Bye bye.